I want you to imagine just for a second that you're the CEO of one of Boston's fastest growing tech company.
Okay, picture that.
Right. You're someone who walks into a boardroom and just completely commands the room. You negotiate million-dollar contracts without flinching.
You're in charge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You dictate the timelines,
Yep.
you control the outcomes, and you track every single metric of success. But then the workday ends.
Right.
You take off the tailored suit and you walk through a park beside your 8-year-old daughter. And in that moment, all your power, all your influence, your entire framework for getting results, it means absolutely nothing.
Because the metrics don't work at home.
They don't. Because your daughter hasn't spoken a single word in 3 years.
Mhm.
And despite all your resources, there is literally nothing you can do to force effects.
Man, the juxtaposition there is just striking.
It really is.
You have this absolute metric-driven control of the corporate world slamming directly into the utter unpredictability of navigating complex human trauma. Those two frameworks could not be more different.
And in today's deep dive, we're unpacking a masterclass in human connection, psychology, and really the architecture of trust that sits right at the intersection of those two worlds.
It's a fascinating case study.
It is. We're looking at this deeply moving narrative of Claire Whitmore and her daughter, Emma. And our mission today is to figure out how an ordinary stranger in a public park achieved what dozens of medical experts, and get this, 47 speech therapy appointments could not.
27? That is just wow.
Right. We're going to look at his secret and, more importantly, what the underlying mechanics of that secret teach us about how we communicate with the people in our own lives who might be shutting down.
Yeah, people who have just built a wall.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the sheer weight of Claire's reality and how Emma's silence actually physically manifested.
Yeah, it's a profound level of isolation. I mean, the source material tells us that for 3 years, ever since she was 5 years old, Emma has been entirely mute.
Just completely silent.
Completely. And there's this detail that really grounds the severity of her condition. Emma doesn't even hold hands anymore.
Oh, right, the sleeve thing.
Yes. When they walk together, she only pinches the fabric of Claire's sleeve. It's described as this quiet, lingering habit, almost as if, letting go of the physical tether completely might cause someone to vanish.
That specific detail paints such a vivid picture of trauma. She's anchoring herself to her mother, but she's intentionally maintaining this physical barrier at the exact same time.
It's a tether, not an embrace.
Exactly, it's a tether, and Claire is just trapped in this frozen life. So the narrative picks up with them at Maple Grove Park. And this is right after speech therapy appointment number 47.
Exhausting.
Beyond exhausting, which means Claire has spent 47 hours sitting in these sterile rooms, watching professionals offer, gentle encouragement and careful prompts, and it results in absolutely 0 words.
Just a wall of silence.
Yeah. And Claire is completely drained. The world around them in the park is moving, dogs are chasing tennis balls, kids are shouting on the playground, but Claire and Emma are just completely stuck in amber.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the inciting incident.
Right.
They're walking past a wooden picnic bench, and there's a father, we later learn his name is Ethan, and he's kneeling on the grass beside his little boy, Noah.
Okay.
And the boy is struggling to tie his sneaker. Now, consider how most adults react in this scenario, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they're trying to get somewhere.
Oh, they sigh, they take over, they do it for them.
Exactly, they rush the process. But Ethan doesn't do any of that. He just smiles, he loosens the lace, and shows the child each loop again.
And Noah makes this crooked, messy knot, right?
He makes a total mess of it and laughs. And Ethan just laughs with him. There's 0 embarrassment, 0 rushing, just quiet, spacious encouragement.
And Claire is barely even registering this interaction at first. I mean, her mind is on tomorrow's board meeting, lagging KPIs, investor calls. She reaches into her purse for her car keys, ready to just leave the park.
But then something wild happens.
Yeah. Emma stops walking. Emma, who hasn't shown independent curiosity about a stranger in 3 years, actually lets go of Claire's sleeve.
She lets go.
She takes a tiny step forward. Her lips part. And then, over the ambient noise of the playground, she speaks 6 fragile words. She says, "He sounds nice."
6 words that completely shatter a 3-year psychological winter.
Literally, Claire is so stunned, she drops her car keys on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like the metallic clink on the concrete is the only sound she can even process.
I can't even imagine that moment as a parent.
Right, 3 years of absolute silence, broken. And it's broken not for her mother, not for a highly trained child psychologist, but for a man whose back is completely turned to her.
And we really need to pause here to look at the psychology of Claire's immediate reaction, because it highlights the central tension of the entire story.
The urge to push.
Yes. Claire's immediate instinct is to drop to her knees and interrogate the breakthrough. She wants to demand answers like, why now? Who is he? Will you keep talking? Say something else.
But she doesn't.
She manages to stop herself because she remembers the strict warning from every single specialist she's consulted. Never, ever chase the first word.
Wow. Chase the first word.
Yeah, you cannot overwhelm the child. You have to let the initiation of conversation belong entirely to them.
Which brings up an analogy I was thinking about regarding Claire's overarching mindset. Like, in the business world, progress is measured by KPIs, right? Key performance indicators.
It's the CEO mindset.
Exactly. You establish a baseline, you force milestones, and if a metric is lagging, you intervene aggressively. You track it, you optimize the workflow, you push for the deliverable.
But you can't optimize trauma.
No. Applying that same progress tracking mindset to a psychological block seems like it would just create a massive problem. It adds this invisible, suffocating pressure to the room.
It really does.
It makes me wonder if our very desire to actively track a child's progress is the exact mechanism that keeps them silent in the first place.
That is precisely why specialists warn against chasing the word. Let's look at the mechanism of what actually happens in the nervous system there.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you turn a child's communication into a high-stakes milestone, something the adults are just desperately waiting for, you attach a massive cognitive and emotional burden to their voice.
Because it's a big deal now.
Exactly. If Emma speaks to her mother, she isn't just expressing a passing thought. She suddenly has to manage her mother's overwhelming emotional reaction.
Ah.
And her amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, it perceives that overwhelming adult emotion as a demand or even a danger. That triggers a freeze response.
But Ethan didn't demand anything.
He demanded absolutely nothing. He didn't even know she was there. His back was completely turned.
And that's the key, right? Because his back was turned, there was no eye contact.
None. And eye contact requires an immense amount of cognitive load. You have to read microexpressions, you interpret intent, formulate a response.
It's a lot of work.
It's exhausting for a traumatized brain. By having his back turned, Ethan removed all of that cognitive load. He was a completely safe target. He required zero emotional management from her nervous system.
But that leaves this massive puzzle. Why this specific stranger? I mean, it couldn't just be the fact that his back was turned. There were probably dozens of people in that park facing the other way.
Oh, absolutely.
There was something fundamental about his behavior, his rhythm, that unlocked the door that had been deadbolted for 3 years. So I'm going to dive into the architecture of how this man, Ethan, actually creates psychological safety.
What's fascinating here is his rhythm, and really the profound contrast between his approach and the typical adult instinct.
Right.
The source material details this perfectly during Claire's subsequent visits to the park, because the very next day, Claire cancels a high-stakes investor dinner, something she hasn't done in 2 years.
Just to go back to the park.
Just to take Emma back to Maple Grove. And they spot Ethan and Noah again. Noah is playing with this bright red toy airplane. At one point, the airplane gets wedged tight under a wooden picnic table.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Noah crawls under to get it, bumps his head hard on a support beam, and comes out looking like he's about to just burst into tears.
Think about the last time someone you love, especially a child, was upset or hurt. If you're anything like me, your immediate instinct is to rush in and fix it.
Totally.
You want to say, oh no, let me kiss it, let me get the toy for you, don't cry. Like, we are conditioned to eliminate the negative emotion immediately.
Yeah.
We want to rescue them.
We do, because sitting with someone else's discomfort is incredibly hard for us. It makes us anxious. But notice what Ethan does not do.
He doesn't panic.
He doesn't panic,
Yeah.
and he doesn't rescue Noah. He kneels down, remaining completely calm, and just says, "That looks surprising, didn't it?"
Wow. He validates the shock, not the pain.
Yes, and that subtle shift in language is a masterstroke of emotional regulation. He gives Noah the vocabulary for the suddenness of the event, which de-escalates the panic.
That's brilliant.
Noah nods. Then Ethan doesn't crawl under the table to retrieve the toy. Instead, he asks, "Do you think Captain Airplane still wants to finish the mission?"
I love that. He reframes the entire narrative. He turns a moment of victimization into a moment of agency.
And it works instantly. Noah laughs through his watery eyes. He reaches under the table to grab the toy himself, and Ethan gives him a high five instead of sympathy.
He empowers the kid.
He empowers the child to regulate his own emotions and solve his own problem. And he does it all with a rhythm that is completely unhurried.
The unhurried aspect is what stands out the most to me.
Mm.
Like, the narrative notes that Ethan never checks his phone, he never glances at a watch, he always leaves physical and conversational space for Noah to finish his thoughts.
He's just present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we see this philosophy explicitly stated shortly after, during this interaction with the golden retriever.
Oh, the dog, yeah.
So the dog gets loose from its owner and comes bounding up to their picnic table, wagging its tail furiously. Noah giggles, and Ethan just calmly holds out a flat hand to let the dog sniff it before petting it.
Modeling the behavior.
Right, and he tells Noah, always let them say hello first. Everyone feels safer when they are given a choice.
And that phrase is a thunderbolt for Claire.
It hits her hard.
Because she realizes she has heard almost that exact sentence from Emma's child psychologist dozens of times over the years. But when the therapist says it in a clinic, it's a sterile strategy. It's an intervention.
It's clinical.
Yeah. When Ethan says it, it's just the natural, integrated way he moves through the world.
And observing this natural rhythm has an immediate physiological effect on Emma. I mean, she starts taking physical steps toward their picnic table over the next few visits.
Closing the distance.
Yeah. She eventually whispers 2 words while watching them. She says, "Good dad."
Wow.
And the ripple effects at home are equally dramatic.
Hmm.
That night, she takes her fingers and draws 4 figures on the foggy glass window. Too tall, too small.
She's integrating them into her life.
She is actively placing them in her world. A few days later, she wanders away from Claire at the grocery store, or she never does, and picks out a bouquet of white daisies.
That's a huge step.
She brings them to the park and hands this tiny, uneven bouquet to Ethan.
And his reaction to being handed flowers by a silent child, he barely knows. I mean, it's flawless.
What does he do?
He doesn't overwhelm her with praise. He doesn't make a grand spectacle of it. He simply accepts them and says, "My kitchen could use something this beautiful."
And Emma gives her first genuine smile and laugh in years.
It's beautiful.
It is. But I want to pause here and offer some pushback on this entire concept, because it challenges everything we're taught about problem solving.
How so?
Modern society conditions us to believe that proactive intervention is the only path to a solution. If an employee is underperforming, you put them on a PIP, right? A performance improvement plan.
Right.
If a child is behind on a milestone, you schedule 47 therapy appointments. We're taught to engage, to prompt, to draw people out.
Action equals progress.
Exactly. The idea of deliberately doing nothing, of leaving vast amounts of space, not asking questions, not making eye contact, it feels entirely counterintuitive. To a high achiever like Claire, doing nothing probably feels dangerously close to negligence.
It feels negligent because we falsely equate visible effort with effective results.
Say more about that.
Well, in the context of trauma recovery or deep psychological distress, stepping back is often the most demanding and active thing you can do. You aren't doing nothing. You are actively constructing and maintaining a boundary of safety.
Like a perimeter.
Think of it like a highly sensitive security system. Claire and the doctors keep setting off Emma's internal alarms because they keep marching straight up to the front door with clipboards and expectations.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Ethan didn't even approach the building. He just sat on the lawn engaging in his own activities until Emma's internal security system realized he wasn't a threat and deactivated itself.
That reframes it entirely. He's not ignoring her. He's actively broadcasting safety.
Yes.
But, Claire's CEO instincts inevitably kick in. She tells herself that 2 afternoons of behavioral shifts can't just be a lucky coincidence.
She needs the data.
She needs data. She needs to understand the variables. So she hires a retired corporate investigator named Daniel Foster to run a background check on Ethan.
Which is the most quintessential CEO response possible. When faced with a mystery, acquire intelligence.
It really is. And the investigator comes back with his dossier. Ethan Brooks, 39 years old, mechanical engineer, widower. He spends his free time volunteering to fix broken bicycles for neighborhood kids.
A good guy.
A great guy. And Daniel Foster gives this summary assessment that I find so striking. He calls Ethan almost boring.
Almost boring. It is such a brilliant letdown for Claire because she is searching for a superhero origin story or some covert, highly specialized psychological training.
Right, some secret method.
But Ethan's actual superpower is just his profound, dependable consistency.
But the actual breakthrough discovery doesn't come from the investigator. It happens when Claire is digging through an old storage box in her closet looking for autumn clothes.
This part is wild.
It really is.
Yeah.
She finds a stained, crumpled program from a community family festival from 4 years ago. And this was a festival they attended just 3 weeks before whatever trauma occurred that caused Emma to stop speaking.
Just 3 weeks?
Yeah. Claire flips through the candid photos from that day. There's a picture of an engineering workshop for kids, and there in the background is Ethan.
Wow.
He's kneeling down, helping a group of kids build cardboard wings. And standing just a few feet away outside the circle, watching him with quiet curiosity, is 5-year-old Emma.
It is a staggering revelation. They never actually met that day. There was no conversation, no interaction, but she observed him.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly a little confusing to me. I don't understand the mechanics of this. How does a single glance at a stranger 4 years ago survive 3 years of complete psychological winter?
It's a great question.
Like, how does a fleeting memory just sit there, perfectly preserved, while she loses the ability to even speak?
So, to understand that, we have to look at how the nervous system catalogs experiences, specifically through a concept called neuroception.
Neuroception.
Yeah, neuroception is our brain's subconscious ability to detect safety or danger in our environment and in other people.
Okay.
When 5-year-old Emma watched Ethan patiently helping those kids build cardboard wings, her nervous system didn't just log a visual memory, it logged a visceral representation of safety.
Like a feeling.
Exactly. Even when trauma later overwhelmed her system and forced her to shut down her verbal communication as a defense mechanism, that core representation of safety remained intact deep in her implicit memory.
That is incredible.
When she saw him again at the park years later, her nervous system recognized a familiar sanctuary before her conscious mind even knew what was happening.
So, armed with this incredible realization, Claire brings the photograph to the park. She confronts Ethan with it. She shows him the picture and admits, my daughter saw you years ago, right before she stopped speaking. And I don't understand why the first complete sentence she spoke in 3 years was about you.
Then Ethan's response?
Ethan is completely puzzled. He squints at the photo, but he doesn't remember Emma. However, his reaction isn't defensive. It's pure, grounded compassion. And he reveals the source of his own profound patience.
He shares his own tragedy with Claire.
Right.
He tells her about his wife passing away unexpectedly. He explains that after she died, his son Noah went completely dark. Noah stopped smiling, stopped playing for months.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And Ethan says everyone around them, well-meaning friends, family, teachers, they kept asking Noah to be strong, to bounce back, to talk about his feelings.
The pressure again.
Exactly. And Ethan had this profound realization watching his son withdraw further under that pressure. He realized his son didn't need another person demanding that he change or process his grief on a socially acceptable timeline.
Yeah.
He just needed someone who would, as Ethan put it, love him exactly where he was.
Love him exactly where he was. That completely refrowns how we look at resilience. Like, we constantly ask people to bounce back rather than having the courage to just sit with them in the dark.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see that Ethan's parenting style, this almost boring zero-pressure rhythm we've been analyzing, it isn't just a quirky personality trait.
No, it's intentional.
It is a hard-won framework forged in the fires of his own family's devastation. He knows intimately what it feels like when the world demands that your grief be convenient and legible.
Wow. Convenient and legible.
So he purposefully built a relationship with his son where all expectations of performance just disappear. And in doing so, he subconsciously constructed the exact architectural sanctuary that Emma's traumatized brain needed to feel safe enough to power back on.
He didn't have a clinical framework.
Yeah.
He had a framework of radical acceptance. And because he established this foundation of zero-pressure trust, the real healing for Emma begins to accelerate.
Yeah, we really see it take off.
And we see it ripple out into her entire world. Not through, dramatic movie moments, but in these incredibly ordinary, practical ways.
Because healing rarely looks like a cinematic montage with soaring orchestral music. Real neurobiological healing looks like a quiet Saturday morning painting a yellow birdhouse.
Let's look at that birdhouse scene because it perfectly illustrates the concept of parallel play.
Yes, a very important concept.
So Noah brings this unfinished wooden birdhouse to the park and sets up his paints on the table. Emma, who historically just watches from a distance, actually walks over on her own.
She initiates it.
She initiates it. She picks up a brush and dips it in the yellow paint. They paint it together, side by side, not making eye contact, just focusing on the object. And it's a mess.
Totally covered in fingerprints.
Yeah, uneven brush strokes, yellow fingerprints everywhere. Noah proudly declares it's the most beautiful birdhouse in the neighborhood. And Emma, completely unprompted, without any therapist coaxing a response, simply says 4 words, birds will like it.
Clear, calm,
Yep.
natural.
Yeah.
Notice what is happening there mechanically. Because they are engaged in parallel play, focusing on a shared task rather than each other, the pressure of direct social interaction is completely removed.
They are looking at each other.
Right. Her words aren't a forced repetition of a prompt. It is an original thought, shared simply because she felt safe enough to share it.
And this newfound safety translates directly to her life outside the park. There's a breakthrough at school where a classmate asked to borrow a blue crayon. Instead of just silently sliding it across the desk, Emma looks up and says, "You can use this one."
Her teachers must have been stunned.
Absolutely floored. They finally stop measuring her progress by daily word counts and start celebrating the fact that she's making eye contact and laughing freely. The metrics don't matter anymore. Her actual humanity is returning.
Which all culminates at the autumn charity picnic.
The big finale.
The community is raising money for playground equipment. It is loud, it is crowded, it's chaotic.
Everything that would usually overwhelm her.
The exact type of sensory overload environment that would have sent Emma into a complete shutdown just a few months prior. But she is sitting calmly on a blanket with Claire and Noah. And Noah turns to Emma and asks if she wants to build a kite with him next weekend.
And Emma looks at Noah, then she looks at Ethan, and then she looks directly at her mother. And she says, "I would like that. Thank you for waiting for me."
Thank you for waiting for me.
It's just such a profound acknowledgement of the space she was given. Claire realizes in that moment that Emma wasn't trapped inside her own mind because she forgot how to formulate words. She was actively waiting until her nervous system believed the world was a safe enough place to listen to those words.
That is the essence of it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? How can you apply Ethan's rhythm of patience in your own life? We all have people in our orbit who are struggling.
Everybody does.
Maybe it's a direct report who is completely shut down during strategy meetings. Maybe it's a partner who has gone silent after a conflict. Maybe it's a child who's frustrated and withdrawing. How often do we demand that they speak on our timeline?
Almost always.
How often do we force the intervention, send the follow-up email, push for the resolution, instead of just sitting on the bench next to them and actively holding a space for them to feel safe?
Ethan didn't intervene to fix Emma. He just built an environment where words weren't afraid to exist. He proved that trust and communication can grow in the most damaged places as long as we stop rushing in with our clipboards and trampling the soil.
It's an incredible paradigm shift. We started this deep dive talking about the CEO in the boardroom, the person who demands outcomes, who tracks the KPIs, who forces the issue. And we learned that sometimes the most effective, powerful, and demanding thing you can do is absolutely nothing but offer a consistent, safe presence.
This raises an important question, one that flips our usual script completely.
What's that?
I want you to think about the moments in your own life when someone responds to you with silence or emotional withdrawal. As a society, we are conditioned to treat that silence as a personal insult or as an urgent problem we need to aggressively solve.
We take it so personally.
We do. We take a hammer to it. We demand an explanation. But what if their silence has nothing to do with you at all? What if it is simply a physiological defense mechanism
Yeah.
or protect a shell against a world that feels overwhelming? And what if the harder you push for an immediate answer, the longer you actually delay their ability to give you one?
That is the ultimate takeaway to carry with you today. What would happen to your relationships, your family dynamics, your workplace culture, if you stopped treating silence as a wall you need to break down and started treating it as a boundary you can respectfully sit beside? You might just find that when you stop demanding the words, they finally find their way back to you.